Hello, welcome back to Tea in a Bar by Tia Blackcharm. Chapter 24. Gary has a nice taste in clothes. Summary. New clothes and talks. Gary stared at the vast options of gloves on the wall. A rainbow of colors stood before him, and he didn't know which ones to choose. He had already gotten several pairs of artist gloves for Shigaraki. The young man had a tendency to decay them when he wasn't watchful of them after he took them off. Gary was looking forward to having Shigaraki not having to deal with the pain after he had one finger lifted for too long. But now he had another young man to think about, Midoriya Izuku. Gary had listened when Midoriya explained the pain he would have. Heat helped, but the thought of gloves was brought to his mind. He hadn't seen the boy wear any, especially these were gloves designed to help individuals dealing with pain in their hands from past injuries. And with the task of getting him clothes, he thought of bringing gloves. It would it would be no issue, and it would calm the feeling of concern he felt when he saw Midoriya wince in pain. You know, you can get him more than one, Sako said, as he stood beside Kirigiri. It would give the little hero to have an array of options and colors, and open it, especially since it opens opportunities for different looks. Kirigiri hummed, "You're correct," and then he proceeded to buy several pairs in different colors: red, at the request of Sako; dark green; a, a green, a dark green that Kirigiri thought suited Midoriya; black, dark purple, white, and a few more. Both Sako and Kirigiri were pleased by the smile on the boy's face when they gave him the bag with some clothes and gloves. It would be nice to see Midoriya in something other than hoodies. After Midoriya had put away the bags, he had gone through the gloves and put on a pair. "Do you like them?" Kirigiri asked. Midoriya looked up and back at his hands. Kirigiri hoped it would help with the pain. "Our dear bartender got you a few in different colors, too, if you would like to go with something than just simple black," Sako said. Midoriya nodded his head. "I like them," and he smiled brightly at the two men. I'm pleased to hear that," Kirigiri said. "Any clothes?" Midoriya glanced over at the bag of clothes. They all look nice, except I don't know when I'll wear a button up with slacks though. It's good it's good to be prepared. Also, every young man should have a good button up and slacks ready to wear." Kirigiri responded. Kirigiri easily responded. "Absolutely," Sako said, and Midoriya could only nod along. When Izuku first wore something other than a hoodie, it was some black pants and a dark blue sweater. He was also wearing black gloves. Toga leaped at him and twirled him around, saying how cute he looked until Magne stopped her. She then led him to the booth where they were sitting. After a while, Shigaraki sat next to him and looked at Midoriya's hands. Nice gloves. You too. You too, Izuku said, back, back eyeing the artist gloves the man had on. Helps with your croak, right? Yeah, and it lets me not get cramps in my hands so often. Shigaraki said. Magna raised an eyebrow when she heard this. You both could get some hand massages to help with the pain. Just use the other hand, just use the other hand, and vice versa should help. Izuku smiled and leaned forward. Can you teach us? He asked, he already knew about hand massages, but liked the idea of Magne teaching him and Shigaraki one to do. Izuku didn't see how Shigaraki seemed surprised to be included, but Magnate did and smiled at the man. Yeah, just follow along with me. The next few minutes, Magnate showed both Shigaraki and Izuku ways to massage their own hands to help with the pain. Toga also followed along, but eventually left when Dabi came up to their booth to watch, and then left since Shigaraki was glaring at him so hard. When they were done, Izuku quickly looked at Shigaraki, who was sitting next to him. You get pain because it's because of usually always having one finger lifted, right? Is it the pinky one cause the pain least wait. Is it the pinky one that causes the least amount of pain, right? Do your hands get stuck in that position? Are you going to continue the massage, right? Hey, do you Izuku excited attack of questions was stopped by Shigaraki placing placing a gloved hand on Izuku's face, cutting him off. Shigaraki sighed. You asked so many questions. Are you going to answer them? Izuku asked, from underneath Shigaraki's hand, seeming unbothered by Shigaraki's hand placement. Shigaraki just looked at Izuku dumbly before responding. Sure. It was an odd sight to see Izuku smile while he had Shigaraki's hand on his face. Oh, I actually spoke too fast. Where are you guys going? Izuku asked, as the others except Compress seemed to leave the bar. All of them completely dressed, ready for a fight. Shigaraki even had all his hands on him. League business, princess, Bobby said. Don't worry, we'll be back soon, Zuko-kun. The others said along the same lines before walking out the door. The last one was Shigaraki, who looked back. Izuku couldn't see the red eyes behind the man's hair and hands. Compress, keep an eye on him, Shigaraki said. Then he walked out the door. With that, Izuku was left alone. It felt a bit odd of the bar to be so empty. Just two people inside of it. So, little hero, what would you like to do? Sako said, ruffling Izuku's hair. Izuku looked away from the door that everyone went out of and looked back at Sako, who didn't have anything covering his face. His brown hair was much neater than Izuku's messy curls. Got any magic tricks? Usually when they decided to do usually whenever they were doing whatever they needed to do, it was silent. The only sound would be them walking on a dimly lit sidewalk to the to whatever destination they had in mind. But this time it was different, as Toga happily chatted away with Twice and Spinner while he asked on the question that everyone else had on their mind. How long do you think the little guy is gonna stay? Spinner said. Well, Dobby looked at Spinner and then up at the dark sky. Considering we technically kidnapped him, it's not up to him. Spinner frowned, but he hasn't asked to leave, or said anything like he did last time. Maybe he doesn't want to leave. You think he likes staying with us? Dobby asked, sending an odd look at the skilled man. Doesn't it look like he does? Spinner turned to Magnum. Do you think that so too, Magnum? The woman adjusted the magnet on her shoulder before responding. I think he does, she said. He doesn't seem to shy away from Shigaraki. Everyone looked at Shigaraki, who was walking beside Kirigiri. Two of them had yet to speak during the walk. What? Shigaraki asked. What do you think about Midoriya? Spinner asked. We technically kidnapped him, but he hasn't asked to leave. And you haven't even asked a question to get any information. Shigaraki didn't react and just kept walking. He won't give us any information. Yeah, so what other reasons is he saying other than not having to ask to leave? I don't know, Shigaraki said before scratching his head. He's confusing. Dawi huh, that putting it lightly. What has your sensei said? He hasn't said anything. Meaning he doesn't have an issue with us? Nagane said. Everyone else seemed surprised, but we're waiting for a response. Shigaraki shrugged. Looks that way. Then I guess he's staying, Spinner said as if he was talking about a stray dog or possibly a new piece of furniture rather than a human being. He said it like it was the simplest thing in the world, and no one else seemed to disagree with him. Then they walked. Then they walked, turned back to how it usually was, silent. Of course, that was broken when Spinner spoke up again. He's nice to us, you know, he said as absent-mindedly, said as if the others were unaware of this obvious fact. Fact. Fact? I don't think I'm saying it right. We know, Magnus said. I like him, Spinner said. And I feel like you do too. Toga jumped and settled herself to walk closer to Magne. I like Izuku-kun. Magne looked down at Toga and smiled. He is a he is a funny little guy. Twice came up to walk on the other side of Magne, and touched Magne's he touched Magne's magnet before sharing his opinion. I like him. He's annoying. The four of them turned around to look at Shigaraki, Kirigiri, and Bobby when they didn't answer. Well, we already know Kirigiri likes the kid. There's no denying it. He and Sako are freaking dads. Bobby treats him like a younger brother. And Shigaraki, to I think you like him too, seeing as you haven't threatened to decay him and you actually let him watch you play video games a couple of times. Three individuals that got called out looked at Magne in a sort of shock, and she laughed, turning around. Twice walked in front of them and ecstatically said, "Big Six Mags knows all." After that, Dobby let out a huff of air in amusement and nudged Shigaraki, who's walking next to him. "We've been called out, Dusty." "Shut up. I'm not hearing a denial." And that's when Shigaraki reached out a hand towards Dobby. Kirigiri opened a wart so Dobby didn't decay the flame user. Dobby smiled before walking up ahead and not stopping Toga as she looped an arm around him. The, their group continued to walk the errands they need, none of them thinking about the green-haired boy they left at the bar. That was a lie. They couldn't deny they seemed to enjoy the kid's company. That his presence barely hadn't shifted their group's dynamic. In a way, it would make them in any in that his presence hadn't shifted their group's dynamic in a way that would make them uneasy or upset. Instead, Midoriya seemed to fit in easily with them. It was odd at first. They were just confused and oddly concerned. But now there was a feeling of fondness along with it, because of course Midoriya, still confusing, and the things he did and said were concerning. They thought about how he was silent for so long, how his mind kept on drifting away so easily, how it was clear that he didn't always sleep despite laying comfortably on the couch. That was, but with that, they also thought about the kid interacting with him, how they saw, how they, how they had seen more smiles come from him directed at them than they were ever used to. They used they were used to suspect uh, suspicious looks, disgust looks, in the faces of people that wanted to be anywhere except near them. But here was this hero student who who usually sat next to them and looked interested in what they had to say. They noticed how Midoriya had not shied away from Dobby, and with scars and fire, how he didn't seem bothered by Toga, continually tried to get him with with her knives, or her talking about blood. Midoriya had not seemed too concerned with Jin's contradicting statements and threats. He hadn't even tried to get away from the man, but instead took those things with stride whatever he spoke to twice, not letting it derail the conversation they were having. They even noticed the damned necklace that Izuku wore and and would often bring up to mess with in his hand with the marble that Sako had given him. Magne had noticed how not once did Midoriya misgender her or make disgusting comments. She distantly, no, she distantly remembered when she had picked him and seen, and she had picked him, and all he seemed to be was in awe of her quirk and strength, and not getting in the way of what getting in the way that was saying that she shouldn't be strong, but was just all. That's confusing. Anyway. There was many times that Midoriya seemed to be in awe, eyes lit up in curiosity, and they could tell that he wanted to ask so many questions. There was a few times where he didn't hesitate to do so. That was nice. That was how they would describe Midoriya having spent time with them. And looking forward and looking and from the looks of it, it was nice for Midoriya too. Later, after showing Midoriya another card trick, Sako looked at the necklace hanging around the boy's neck. The marble had the marble he had given him for entertainment seemed perfectly natural resting against Midoriya's chest. When he had given it, he had not thought the boy would have kept it, much turn much less turn it into jewelry and wear it. Why do you wear it? Sako asked, letting his curiosity get the better of him. Midoriya looked away from shuffling the deck of cards and up at Sako. Huh? The marble. He pointed at it, and Midoriya looked down. Oh, well, because I like it. You like it? The boy smiled at him and took off the necklace and letting the marble hang in the air between them. Isn't it pretty? It's just a nice marble, and color the color is nice. It kind of reminds me of Dobby's eyes too. You calling me pretty, princess? The voice said, and they turned to see Dobby, had walked who walked back into the bar, followed by the others. Wow, beauty is really in the eyes of the beholder. Spinner said, making Sako and Midoriya laugh, and they laughed some more when Dobby tried to punch Spinner, but the man easily blocked it, grinning at Dobby. While they watched Spinner and Dobby fight, Sako leaned closer to Midoriya, who had put the necklace back on. Would you like Would you like to know what was in that marble? Midoriya smiled at him. Will you tell me? Sako smiled and leaned down to Midoriya's ear as if they were as the others were listening. Midoriya got the memo and listened closely when Sako whispered to him. When Sako leaned back, a, he was pleased by the smile on Midoriya's face. Sako reached out a hand and ruffled the boy's hair once again. He could he could see it was becoming a habit. No one, no matter how much everyone asked, no matter how much everyone asked, Midoriya didn't reveal to them what Sako had whispered in his ear. Alright, that is all for now. Um, that, that is the end of chapter 24 of Tina Bar. I'm going to try and put these out more since it is summer and I'm not on break. I would have started as soon as I got out of school, but I wasn't. I needed a mental rest because school, it drains you so much. But anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed. Please give kudos to the author and let them know how much you enjoyed this fic. And if you have any other fic recommendations, please leave it down in the comment below. Alright, that's all. I hope y'all. I already said that. Eat, drink, get some sleep. I know it's summer, but I need to get my sleeping schedule back in order. But anyways, that's all, and I will see y'all next time.